All right, so it looks like we're recording. So welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name is Annette Gutierrez. I'm the Director of Basic Needs and Success at Gavilan College. And I am also managing our Fresh Success program. And I've been doing so since 2017, I believe. But I've been part of the Fresh Success program since its inception and development. So I'm really excited to be here with you along with Courtney. You want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi everybody, Courtney Cagle here. I'm the Senior Specialist with the Fresh Success Program, which is housed at the Foundation for California Community Colleges. And if you don't know what that is, I'm not surprised. We work in the background a lot of the time, but we're the official nonprofit organization of the California Community Colleges Chancellor's Office, so we work hand in hand with them. And I'm so pleased to be able to be here today to talk with you about the Fresh Success Program and to be able to highlight the awesome things that Gavilan College has done through this funding source. So thank you.
Definitely. So we took a different approach to this presentation. So, Courtney and I have been on the road with Fresh Success for some time now. We've done a number of different presentations. And so just throughout our experience and talking to some other folks who have expressed interest, we're taking a lens of supporting equity and guided pathways. That's kind of what all of our colleges are kind of looking at right now. And so we wanted to make sure that that colleges who were interested in participating in the Fresh Success program and having a program at their college could use what we're going to share today as a way to kind of support potentially offering the Fresh Success program. But this is your time to ask questions. So please feel free to use the chat. We will have some time at the end as well. Courtney and I are going to take turns presenting. And so I'll manage the chat while she's presenting, and I'm sure she will as well. But and then you'll have our contact information at the end as well. So Courtney, take it away.
Great, thanks, Annette. Well, we wanted to start with hearing from you all to know who's here in the virtual room with us and just to get to know a little bit more about your perspective. So we're trying something fancy, which is poll everywhere. And that was, coming up with our test entries when we tried this out yesterday. But if you go to the website that I just put in the chat there, that link, that's going to take you directly to our poll. And you'll be able to then enter your real college name rather than us testing out those colleges that we were trying out yesterday. It's good to know that it was working. Let's see, let me look and see what this error status is. I don't know what that means. If you're having any trouble, please unmute yourself or put it into the chat to let me know. And we could just skip this part if necessary.
Yeah, it's telling me I did it too, and it just saying waiting for the presentation to begin.
Oh, well, we just did that. Hold on a second. Let me see if I can do something here.
I didn't try the text one though.
No. Okay, well, you know what? It worked yesterday, but of course it doesn't work on the day of. So I have a different solution. Let's go old school Zoom. And if you can just put that into the chat, we would love to hear from you in the chat about which college you represent so that we know who's here with us today.
I'll take it. I'll take it.
This is great. We've got folks from all over the state. This is wonderful. Okay, and as you're wrapping up, letting us know which college you're from, we can move on to our next question, which will also, you can put in the chat as well so that we can see it there. And we want to know, what do you hope to gain from this session? You obviously chose to come to this session for a reason. So it would be great if you could let us know if there's something specific that you want to hear, then that way we can review what you've said here in the chat and make sure that we cover that during our Q&A period. Great. Thanks, everybody. And I know some of you are probably still working on your response to what you want to know. So you can keep finishing up that entry, and I'm also going to move us on to the next question just to keep things moving in our limited hour that we have together, so we can come back and review these responses. I see a lot of people are wanting to know just kind of what Fresh Success is, how they can use funding to support their students, and more about the opportunities for students. And we'll definitely talk about all of those things today and in more detail. The last thing, is just kind of a fun one, but just from your perspective, because things might be different in your programs or at your colleges. But we were kind of wanting to know which of these visual representations best represents the student experience at your particular college from what you've seen. Do you think it's a lot of ups and downs? Is it kind of one period where they might be doing great and have a honeymoon and then it dips again right before they graduate? Or a really static, experience where it's pretty the same the whole time that they're in the program. So you can choose, A, B, or C, or give us a verbal description of which one you think that is. I'm seeing a lot of responses to the first one on the top. Great. Well, thanks so much for that feedback, everybody. As someone who works a level removed from our community college students, it's nice to hear your feedback from the folks that are on the ground actually working with them. It's my assumption from what I hear and talking with our partners like Annette and others who are doing the Fresh Success program that that's what it seems like, that a student experience can be a lot of ups and downs. There's a lot of challenges that may come along the way. And what Fresh Success is here to do is to help kind of even out some of those challenges for them and make it so that they don't become barriers that block them from reaching their goal. And so one of the things that we'll talk about today is how that fits in with guided pathways. And I'm not sure if any of you have seen this graphic before. It's something that was produced a few years ago to really help lay out the framework of the community college system and how everything fits together in supporting students and communities. So we can see over on the left there that there's the big why, of course, that we do what we do is for the students and the communities. But how we achieve that, the what, is through these different goals outlined in the vision for success. And the way that we reach those goals is through this framework of the 4 pillars of guided pathways, right? So the intention is to clarify the path, help students enter the path, help them stay on the path, and ensure learning. But the way that we actually do those things is through this right-hand column of the system level supports and tools that are available. This graphic chunks them into things like policy connections, fiscal reform, and then program alignment and support. And even though Fresh Success isn't specifically called out in this graphic, where it fits is in that bottom section with strong workforce and student success metrics, the program alignment and support category. Fresh Success is a small but growing and mighty program. As Annette said, she was one of the first implementers of the program back in 2017. So we haven't been around all that long. Maybe when we refresh this graphic in the future, Fresh Success might make it on to that section in the graphic. And we know that financial challenges for students are a really big deal in the community college system in particular. I'm not sure if any of you were on the Chancellor's Office System webinar recently, where the Institute for College Access and Success, TICAS, was a guest presenter and shared some of their most recent data that they've gathered about college affordability in California. And this is, the second time around where they've shared this information. And again, the community colleges can be more expensive than four-year universities for students. One, because the total college costs are similar across segments, but community college students typically receive disproportionately smaller grant awards. So when it comes to out-of-pocket funding that they're having to pay for all their costs, I mean, tuition's not that expensive, right? But there's all these other costs that they're incurring. It can actually be more expensive for them to be in the community college system. And that's one of the things that Fresh Success, along with all the other supportive service programs on campus, are really trying to address. And we'll talk about that here, specifically how Fresh Success does that. So in terms of its alignment with guided pathways, Fresh Success at its core is really two primary areas. It's access to funding, and it's using that funding to support students. So in terms of how that fits within the guided pathways framework, the student support piece that helps them enter the path is that they can receive really robust assistance and support through the program for their eligible courses. And we'll talk in more detail about what those eligible courses are. But how Fresh Success does that is through the funding that then helps colleges provide that extra support for students. And a lot of times that's particularly impactful for students who don't qualify for other supportive service programs on campus. To help them stay on the path, students receive financial support with the cost of their participation in their qualifying courses. So that's not only textbooks and course supplies, but it can also be things like internet or emergency rent and utility assistance, the things that can really come up and derail them from their path. And Fresh Success, again, does that by providing the funding as a partial reimbursement for those costs. And then to ensure learning, students are meeting with counselors typically 3 times per semester to ensure that they're on track and supported to meet their educational goal. And again, Fresh Success is helping with that by providing the funding for the extra staffing costs that are associated with giving that extra counseling support. So one of the questions that I saw in the chat earlier is, what is Fresh Success? This is kind of the first slide where we'll start to delve into what Fresh Success is. At its core, know that Fresh Success is a program that's operated by the Foundation for California Community Colleges, the nonprofit where I am situated, that's in partnership with the Chancellor's Office. And what it does is that it supports community colleges and some community-based organizations in starting and operating what's known as a CalFresh Employment and Training Program. What this is that in the state of California, I know you all are very familiar with CalFresh and CalWORKs connection to that. There's a subset within CalFresh of funding and program support that's called CalFresh Employment and Training. And it's very similar to what CalWORKs does, but it's a different funding stream. And so it supports different students and it's operated in a slightly different way. Fresh Success is one of those CalFresh Employment and Training programs. And our role is to expand the number of on-the-ground programs that are operating to support individuals with the supports that are available through the program. And that happens just like CalWORKs in coordination with the county CalFresh agencies. And the way that Fresh Success is funded is ultimately through the USDA, the Food and Nutrition Service, just like the general CalFresh program, coming down to the California Department of Social Services. And then the Foundation for California Community Colleges is contracted with CDSS to serve as this statewide intermediary organization where then we can go out and subcontract with the California community colleges that are interested in operating this program with some of the community-based organizations that provide the right types of services to qualifying individuals. And what it is, it's a reimbursement program. So the purpose is really to identify what are the things that you're doing that meet the requirements of this program. How can we capture and document the things that are already happening to then generate some reimbursement based on those costs to help you grow and do more. What's really great is that it's a sustainable source of funding and it's non-competitive. So it's not a grant application that you have to write where you're competing with other organizations for a set pool of funds. What happens is you put together a narrative and budget plan that gets approved by our state and federal agencies, and then you're good to go from there. And so we've never had a plan that has not been approved. And as I mentioned before, it's coordinated with your county CalFresh agencies, and that's an important piece of this as well. And we'll talk more about that as we go along, where I can show you a map of which of our counties in California are currently partnering with us and where we have some room to grow. So as I mentioned, it's a reimbursement program, right? So when we're thinking about what qualifies for reimbursement, there's a few things to consider. One is that you need to be having a non-federal funding source that you're using to pay for qualifying expenses upfront. And we know that CalWORKs is not one of those funding sources, right? Because it's a federal funding source. So that's one of the things that we're going to talk about today, are what are the other sources of funding that you might have access to on your campus that you could use for this purpose to help grow your programming and the supports that you're able to provide for your students. Some of the possible funding sources that we've seen that our partners use include student equity and achievement funds. EOPS partnerships can be a great way to tap into some of those categorical state funds. Community college promise grants, formerly known as the BOG fee waivers, are a really awesome source that you can document for your students to generate reimbursements through your program. As well as adult education program funds, strong workforce if you have access to that, or even some district general funds, or philanthropic and foundation funds as well. Pretty much anything that's not a federal source of funding you can use for this program if you're spending it on the right types of costs for allowable participants. And that's what we're going to talk about in the coming slides. So kind of what do those terms mean? So within a CalFresh employment and training program and Fresh Success, to be eligible for the program, there's a few things that a student has to have in place. One is that they have to be receiving CalFresh benefits. And we know that on our campuses, there are a lot of folks that are eligible for CalFresh, but just have not applied or have not completed that application process to actually get their CalFresh benefits in place. Fresh Success is really great in that regard because it can actually serve as an additional motivator for students to finish that CalFresh application and get their food benefits, knowing that once they get approved for CalFresh, they have access to all these additional benefits that they get through the Fresh Success program. And we'll talk in more detail about what those are coming up. As I mentioned before, Fresh Success and CalFresh Employment and Training is really similar to CalWORKs in terms of the services that students get. So from the federal government perspective, they can't allow someone to be in both CalWORKs and Fresh Success at the same time. It has to be one or the other. But what's great about this program then is that for students who have timed out of CalWORKs, they can easily transition into the Fresh Success program to continue getting the supportive services that they need to finish out their certificate or degree program and move into their career. And the other unique thing about a qualification for this program is that because it's a CalFresh employment and training program, USDA is really focused on ensuring that students are on what they call a prompt path to employment. And they really want to just support students who are enrolled in what they think of as the right types of courses to move them into employment when they're finished with their program. So these include career education or CTE, vocational training courses. It could be English as a second language courses, high school equivalency preparation, or what the federal government calls basic skills. And we know that California is moving away from basic skills courses as they're termed, but there could still be some courses on your campus that would fit the federal definition of this as well. I'm seeing a question come up in the chat, so I can pause to answer this question. The question is, do guidance and counseling courses count as one of these courses? So Steph, maybe if you could unmute yourself and talk a little bit about a guidance or a counseling course. So is this like a training program that one of your students would be a part of to become a guidance counselor?
It depends on the course. So I know a few community colleges have some like ours at Columbia College. So there might be guidance one that is for career and life planning. It helps
Mm,
them do personality assessments, a lot of practical things where they can actually, an assignment is creating a resume, doing job interview techniques and skills. And so not all guidance courses are exactly that, but there are some that are designated for that job entry piece. Others might be life skills for higher education, so they can learn how to be a successful student navigating higher ed. And so it's not geared towards a specific program, it's geared to give students more of those life skills.
yeah, great question. And those types of courses would fall under this kind of basic skills category as the federal government looks at it. So things that are preparing students to be successful in the workplace. Great question.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to move us on to talk a little bit more about the activities that would generate the reimbursement through the program and kind of the services that students would typically get under a Fresh Success program. One thing that's new to this program within the last few years that the federal government has mandated is that they're requiring case management for all participants in the program. And this is a pretty loose definition of what case management is, but basically it means that students have someone to go to when they need assistance, and that there's someone who's tracking their progress in the program and making sure that they are connected to the financial supports and the counseling sessions that they need to be successful. So usually it looks like, a few contacts with a counselor per term or a check-in once per month, something along those lines where there's monitoring of their progress in the program. So the costs associated with that would be eligible for the partial reimbursement under this program, as well as any tuition support that's provided on behalf of the student. That could be in the form of the College Promise Grant fee waivers. That's a really great source to generate reimbursement when you're serving credit students on your campus. But if you're serving non-credit or not-for-credit students and you want to provide tuition support for them, you can do that up front and seek partial reimbursement on what you've supported them in with tuition. But it can also include academic and career counseling above and beyond what's available to all students. So, as we mentioned before, students are having multiple contacts with counselors per term. We want to set that up in the design of the program. So that's something that's typically above and beyond what's available to all students. So that design then and the counseling time associated with that is what could be available to generate reimbursement as well. But as well, it can include academic monitoring if you want to provide any career or job readiness workshops, as well as any job search, placement, or job retention services. Those could all be part of your program. And the great thing about Fresh Success is that it's flexible in its design in terms of what you include or what you don't include. And we'll get into the details of that a little bit more as well. I mentioned earlier about the financial help to reduce barriers to participation for students, and we see this as one of the biggest drawing points for students to come into the program, or these types of supports that they can get once they're enrolled. As I mentioned before, sometimes they might need a little bit of extra motivation to apply for CalFresh benefits, but when we can tell them that they'll get not only food assistance through CalFresh, but access to some of these supports as well, it can be highly motivating for them to go through that process and enroll in both programs. Once classes start on campus again, we can provide them with transportation support that they need to get to and from those classes in the form of gas cards or bus passes or other sort of transit assistance, the textbooks that they need for their eligible courses, as well as any course supplies. Especially within the career education programs, we know that a lot of those course supplies can be really expensive and a hindrance to students enrolling and maintaining their participation in those courses. And so the purpose of this program is really to make sure that they're able to do that and that they have the financial support that they need to keep going on their path. When we're in this remote mode, internet and mobile device support can be provided for remote learning, any sort of testing fees that might come up, as well as emergency rent and one-time utility payments. If they're having a hard time making ends meet and they're about to have their power shut off, this program can step in to make sure that that doesn't happen, as well as some of the other things that you see there on the screen. This is not an exhaustive list, but it gives you an idea of the types of unique supports that can be available through this program that we don't typically see in a lot of other supportive service programs. I do see something in the chat and a question about how we report these services to financial aid. So I'm actually going to let Annette answer this question about reporting to financial aid. Do you want to step in and take a swing at this, Annette?
Sure. Yes, we do report all of our direct aid to students through financial aid. So however you're doing it now for CalWORKs, you would probably follow that similarly. On our campus, we have direct access to be able to input what we call it resources. So they're not getting a direct, like a check, right? Because we're giving them these services, for example, the direct services, for example, PG&E goes directly to PG&E potentially, and rent goes directly to whoever they pay rent to. So that's the student's not getting it directly, but it is still considered direct aid. And we have the ability to enter it in as a resource through our financial aid screens. And then there's a question about dependent care, like childcare. Yes, childcare is an eligible service.
Yes. Thank you so much, Annette. Appreciate it. This slide that you see right here is on the right side, an example of what an invoice looks like for the Fresh Success program, just as an example. So you can see on the column that says total cost for the quarter, these are the different line items that we're looking at. It includes personnel salaries and benefits, prorated operating expenses, potentially some travel and per diem, the tuition costs that we talked about, like promise grant supports, as well as an indirect cost that you're able to include in this program. And then finally, those supportive service items that we mentioned before, whether that be transportation support or what we call ancillary, which is all those other types of things that don't fit into transportation support or dependent care. And the types of staff that we typically see that are working on this program for part of their time, it might be around a third of these types of positions that they spend working on what we call Fresh Success allowable activities. And that doesn't necessarily mean that they are solely dedicated to Fresh Success. It means that the things that they're doing are in service for Fresh Success participants as part of their other job that they do. So they're able to capture those activities that they do and charge that time to the Fresh Success program, even though, if we have any accountants out there, that's going to sound like double dipping. But because this is a reimbursement program capturing what you're already doing, that's an allowable service, it's not. And we're able to just generate some additional funding based on what you're already doing. So that can include like a program supervisor and program specialist, counselors, an office assistant, maybe an accountant. And the list can go on depending upon your unique program setup and how you want to manage this program. And just to give you a sense of what the funding for this program looks like, we've included a sample graph on there to show you growth in program over time. So you can see that it might start small as you start to slowly build your program, and you don't start off maybe with a lot of seed funding. You don't have a lot of students that you're serving in the first year necessarily. But as the word on campus grows and more students start to enroll and you start to generate a lot of that reimbursement, you can continue to grow that program over time. And what we see now is that for our community college partners, they're getting an average annual reimbursement of about $1,350 per student. So take into account that this is a partial reimbursement, so they're spending almost twice as much as that on student costs overall, and then they're getting about half of that reimbursed through the program. And keep in mind that a lot of things that they're spending are that they're already paying for, so they're capturing costs for counseling time that the students are already doing, or other types of program operating costs. And so one thing that we wanted to highlight is about the amount of flexibility that Fresh Success provides. So, there's no set host program that's required. It could be based in CalWORKs or EOPS. If you have a basic needs office on campus, a non-credit program could be the host for this program. So, maybe you might want to spread the word to your partners on your campus if it doesn't seem like CalWORKs is the right host program for this, but you think it's something that could really benefit your campus. Let these other programs know that it's something that they could explore as well. And we see some great partnerships that happen through these programs on our campuses as well. But there's also flexibility in the funding sources that you use to generate this reimbursement, whether that's the SEEP funding, strong workforce, the categorical funds that I mentioned. There's a lot of flexibility there. And also around the target population of who you want to serve. It could be that you want to just start with EOPS students and provide them with support above and beyond what they can get through EOPS. Or you want to really target the students that were identified in your campus equity plans and focus on serving them through this program. Or students that are left out of other supportive service programs on campus. You could focus on non-credit students. There's a lot of flexibility in this program in terms of what needs do you see on your campus, and you can use that program to help fill the gaps in those needs. And so just a little bit about why colleges participate in Fresh Success, just to kind of wrap up some of the things that I've said before. It enhances the services for their low-income students to better support persistence and completion. And it can actually help with student food insecurity on campus by encouraging them to apply for CalFresh benefits if they haven't already. So those are some of the main benefits that we see for colleges in participating in this program. And I know you'll hear more from Annette about the benefits that Gavilan has specifically seen for their program. But before I turn it over, I did want to show you the map I mentioned earlier about where our current partners are and that we operate in partnership with our county CalFresh agencies. You can see here from the map that the green counties and those that are green stripes are our current county partners. The green stripes just mean that we only work with them in the education realm, and the solid green means we do other things with them as well. These ones that are in gray mean that they are a county that offers CalFresh employment and training programs to some degree in their county, but have not chosen yet to partner with Fresh Success. So if your college is based in one of those gray counties, it means we have some work to do with that county in terms of getting them to say yes to a partnership before we can bring you on board as an official Fresh Success partner. It doesn't mean it's not possible. Please let us know if you're interested. That way, we have a specific ask when we go to that county to let them know that we have someone who's interested in partnering in the county as well. But if you're based in one of these other green counties, that means that it's going to be smooth sailing for you to join the Fresh Success program because we already have partnership in place with that county. And one of the things that we wanted to do, if we can get this to work, is we have a brief video about Fresh Success that was made a few years ago that really highlights Gavilan College, that'll help lay the groundwork for Annette to talk more deeply about the Gavilan experience in Fresh Success. So I'm going to play this video and hope that this will work better than our Poll Everywhere experience.
Fresh Success provides education and training program services to Californians to help them get better jobs. But more than that, Fresh Success is central to California's CalFresh Employment and Training Growth Plan, not only in terms of serving more individuals, but also in expanding the quality of those services. The Fresh Success program seeks to make community college affordable, to make staying in school feasible for folks.
We have a very diverse student base. Students come to us without basic needs being met. Students come to us that are homeless. Students come to us without a support system, a social support system. If they go to school, they know that it will change something.
Community colleges are unique in that they have a statewide reach, and they often offer innovative programs. Middle skill jobs, those jobs that are in between a high school degree and a bachelor's degree, are the fastest growing segment of our economy, and community colleges perfectly serve that target. More than that, community colleges are often trusted community hubs and really offer students a holistic approach to not only an education and securing a job, but in meeting their other needs as well.
My name is Christian. I'm a student here at Gavilan College, continuing my education, get my associate's degree. The Fresh Success program has been the difference maker in allowing me to really take on as many courses as I need and can without having to stress about food or making ends meet. And really, before the program was available to me, I was going hungry and didn't have the amount of resources that I needed. Fresh Success counselors really get to know you, know what you need, know what you're dealing with.
Sorry, everybody.
And how to set you up for success in the best way possible.
My parents never finished, they finished high school, but they never went anywhere beyond for the living paycheck by paycheck. And that's what me and my husband are doing right now. And I don't want to give that to my kids. My husband's aunt passed away from cancer. So I was in the hospital with her for about 2 weeks. When the doctors came in, they asked, what do you want to do with your life? And I said, you know what, I actually kind of want to be a nurse, but I'm still deciding. He's like, you know what, you should do it. Fresh Success has allowed me to be able to reach my goals and being a nurse and be able to support my family. If you need help or just someone to talk to and to make sure you're on the right track with your schooling, that they'll be there to listen to you and to help you out.
And thanks to federal funding, thanks to state funding, we've been able to offer programs that have allowed us to target the needs of our students in ways that have been able to undergird and support the learning and success of our students in really highly specialized ways. Our students have been able to access book vouchers, transportation, get counseling, have support services, and we know statistically that will increase their success in the classroom.
Okay, great. I'm so happy that worked. Great. And I'm going to pass it over to Annette to delve into the details of Gavilan's story.
Thank you, Courtney, for that really smooth and in-depth overview of Fresh Success. It's a privilege, honestly, to be part of the Fresh Success family and see how much it has grown since the 15-16 academic year when we first launched. You can go to the next slide.
Sorry, Annette, my computer's freaking out slightly. There.
That's okay.
There we go.
Awesome. So this is a really dense slide, but as I was kind of thinking about putting, what information was important, and I've talked to many colleges that have thought about launching or are launching Fresh Success. And so I thought this is a lot of the information that I share with those programs. So you'll see kind of the progression that Gavilan College has had with the Fresh Success program. So initially, we started off with as a pilot program, only serving one county. So Gavilan College, for those of you who may not be aware, we're kind of nested in the heels of South Santa Clara County. We cover a 2,700 square mile radius, and we're actually in between two counties. We're in between Santa Clara and San Benito County. So initially we started off with Santa Clara County because San Benito County was one of those counties at the time that did not have an employment and training program. Our district allocated $60,000 from the general fund and $30,000 from equity dollars, which we know equity dollars alone no longer exist, right? They've been folded into the SEEP dollars. And so we had some seed money to start off our program because, as Courtney mentioned, this is a reimbursement program. So that money allowed us to just start to serve the students that we were going to bring into our program. So it allowed us to pay for some staffing, it allowed us to buy gas cards and be able to pay for books and transportation. We focused heavily on our equity groups, timed out CalWORKs, part-time students, and anyone that was not part of another program. So filling in those gaps. Right. And I think that's really where I feel this program falls very nicely with guided pathways, because it's the intent of guided pathways, right, is to kind of catch students before they fall, serve students that maybe are outside of those traditional kind of service programs and things like that. And so I really feel like Fresh Success is a nice program to capture those students. We did heavy outreach, and I cannot stress this enough. Anyone who has launched a brand new program from the ground up, you have to put a lot of work in up front. It took us probably about 3 years for folks to know on our campus what Fresh Success was without me having to provide a definition. But that was because we were in classrooms, we were on our Sycamore Lane, just sharing information. We talked to anyone who was willing to hear us. We talked to counties, our county partners, eligibility workers, students, staff, faculty, administrators, anyone that was willing to hear us over and over and over again, in order to ensure that they knew what Fresh Success would be, or what Fresh Success is. And we, again, started very small. We started with very basic supportive services. And then you'll see that throughout, the progression of the program, we started to grow. We built in an MOU with San Benito County, thanks to the foundation. We became permanent in 2018, thanks to the foundation. I can't thank the foundation enough, to be honest, because they do a lot of the heavy lifting with regards to program implementation and getting your, everything in order. They're fantastic. Gavilan became self-sufficient in 2018-19. So what does that mean? That means that we no longer needed any more funding from our college. With our reimbursements and our reimbursements alone, we were able to sustain our program from year to year, which is really nice. And part of that was because we were able to use promise grants as eligible match. So, as a reminder, Gavilan was one of the first colleges to launch the program. So we've been through all the growing pains, so you don't have to. A lot of the legwork is already done. The forms are created. The foundation has taken care of the MOU process. They make it super easy. We have, templates for really everything that you need to get a program started. We later included, EOPS. Initially, EOPS was really hesitant on our campus. We were kind of in leadership transition at that time. And so our new dean at the time was like, let me see what this is all about first. But with some convincing and her seeing kind of the success of the program, we grew from 11 students to 163 students in only a matter of a few years. And again, it's because of that heavy in-reach and outreach up front. And strong county partnerships. CalWORKs knows how to work with the county. That's what we do, right? So we have those partnerships. We know who to go to, who to ask. We kind of know how to navigate that. And I really I think that's part of the success of our program, is that both Santa Clara and San Benito County allowed us into their offices. They worked with us from day one to really grow the program. And then, as our funding started to flourish with our reimbursements, we were able to expand, our services. But not only because of the funding, but because now we kind of knew what we were doing, and we could start to, add more services to the program so that we could provide a more holistic approach to our case management, with not just the traditional books, transportation, but with, as Courtney mentioned, vehicle repair, PG&E assistance, rental assistance, and now technology assistance. We're also able to pay for all the supplies, materials, fees for eligible courses. So things like cosmetology, nursing, our aviation program. I mean, those students spend thousands of dollars on their materials up front. Most students that are receiving public assistance can't afford that, or they have to use all of their financial aid to afford it. So with Fresh Success, we're able to offer them that as a service, and then they can use their, their other funds in other ways that they see fit. So, in 2019-21, we really started to look at data because now we had some cohorts, right, that we could really follow. And we found that 70% on average, that was our retention rate. 80% of our students earned a 2.0 GPA or above. And 100% of students that were scheduled to graduate in 2019-20 graduated. Now, granted, it wasn't hundreds of students because our program is quite small, but the 20 or so students, I can't remember the number off the top of my head, that were scheduled to graduate, they graduated. And I think that's a pretty great rate, to be honest. And now our institution sees us as permanent, and we're being included as part of, our annual planning processes. Our program is being reviewed. We're creating all of those things on our campus. We're doing board reports. Our board recognizes the program. So we've really established a strong footing over the course of the years that we've been offering Fresh Success. Next slide. So just some lessons learned. As I mentioned, start small. I think if you're considering a Fresh Success program, think about what population is most in need that is not being served currently, right? Part-time students, non-credit students, whatever it is on your campus, you know who needs to be served and who's not being served on your campus. I don't think I need to tell you that because I think across the state that's going to look different. What services can you offer and get to students up front? That's not going to be super bureaucratic. The processes aren't going to be so convoluted that you can't get it through the business office or whatnot. We ran into that issue. I wanted to offer the world to our students because I've never seen a program where we could offer the world to our students. Like the array of services that Fresh Success allows us to offer is fantastic. But you have to do it in a certain way, right? Because you have to be able to track it. You have to be able to report it. You have to be, right? All those checks and balances. So start small. Start with what you know how to do. Books, transportation, we all know how to do that really well. And maybe add one additional service. How strong is your partnership with financial aid and the business office, and how easy are your processes to kind of navigate and get things done on your campus? Only you know that. And if you don't know that, then I encourage you to find out, because that's going to kind of dictate what services you can and can't offer. An example of that is the utility assistance. Utilities are a lot of things. It's, your PG&E, it's your water, your garbage maybe, and all of that, those kinds of things. Well, again, I wanted to offer the world, and I didn't realize that in Santa Clara County, every single city has their own water department. So that was not feasible to continue. So we literally offered it for, I think, one semester, and then we changed it to just PG&E. So, we learn along the way. Again, you don't have to learn through your own mistakes. You can learn through ours. And then that consistency and patience. So just going back to the heavy outreach and inreach, talking to anyone that's willing to talk to you, leveraging your basic needs programs, leveraging the food pantry. I have the opportunity to kind of manage all those programs. So it was really seamless and easy for me to create a process flow for for students to be referred through our food pantry and our sister and brother programs on our campus. So I encourage you to continue to use, leverage those partnerships that you already are using for CalWORKs as well. We use our welcome center and our peer mentors. We get on every convocation or professional development agenda to do a presentation. And even if only 20 folks attend, hey, that's 20 more that now know about the service and they can now refer students. The pantry on our campus when we were in person was like a highlight. It was such a spotlight. So we really leveraged that, and any chance that we got, we asked students, are you receiving CalFresh? Would you like to apply? Okay, great. What's your major? Awesome, you're a career ed major, you're eligible for CalFresh. Did you know about Fresh Success? So we just kind of built it into our students who are running the pantry, built it into their training so that that conversation just kind of happened naturally. And it didn't feel like we were pitching a program, right? It just felt like a natural conversation. And then working smarter, not harder. So again, all of us here, we work with CalWORKs, we work with EOPS, maybe some other programs. Those models work. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. We at Gavilan, we pretty much modeled our entire program after EOPS and CalWORKs. Our forms, our intake process, the contact cycle. We didn't create something different for Fresh Success. We just modeled what we knew worked. And, you orient your students, you hold them accountable. The kind of cool thing too about Fresh Success, I know somebody asked earlier about time limits. There are no time limits. So as long as they're eligible and they're progressing along, right? You can continue to serve them. Okay, next slide. So the benefits that we have seen because of offering Fresh Success is that this is the one and only program on our campus that serves every single type of student, credit, non-credit. I know not every community college has a community education program, but we do, and we're able to serve those students. So for those of you who may not be aware, community ed is typically a fee-based program. Oftentimes it's really more about enrichment. And maybe some, professional development type of stuff, but our community ed program is pretty robust. We actually use our community ed program to incubate programs, to test them out, so to speak, see how they're going to do, work on curriculum, and then bring them to the credit or non-credit side, oftentimes. So we have things like phlebotomy, pharmacy tech, vet assistant, medical assisting, paralegal out of our community ed. They're fee-based. We are able to pay a portion of the students' cost to participate in those classes up front, and we get reimbursed for part of those fees. So it makes it very affordable for someone receiving CalFresh benefits to be able to access those really short-term, right? 6 months, 8 months, year program or whatnot. It's hands-on learning. You get an externship, and then they're out in the field that they wanted to work in. And then, of course, timed out CalWORKs. We're always looking for ways to serve our timed out CalWORKs. So obviously, they still have to be, eligible for CalFresh. They have to be a career education major or have career ed classes. But it's been a nice opportunity to offer to some of our CalWORK students that seamless transition. Not only are the services somewhat the same, but the staff, all the staff in our office are the exact same. So they don't have that break in relationship, that break in community. We're able to just kind of take them along for that last semester or whatnot. And then we've been able to integrate across campus through student services, academic services, business services, right? That guided pathways model, making sure that, everyone's informed. Our processes are seamless. We work really hand in hand with all these folks, them giving us access to screens. I know that's sometimes not really heard of, especially with financial aid, giving access to screens to put things in there. But our campus allows us to do that. We're right in there. We're awarding, grants. We're awarding parking permits, all those things. And maybe you're wondering, how did you get that done? Well, I told them, you train us, we'll take the burden off of you, and then you all don't have to do it, right? Otherwise, you all have to do it and manage it for us. So that was a selling point for our college. And then again, it's supporting all of the really mainstream college-wide efforts and statewide efforts through guided pathways, equity, vision for success, and then of course our college mission and vision. Next slide. Oh, let me see, there are some questions in here. So timed out CalWORKs, yes, childcare is available. We do not offer childcare at Gavilan, but that is an eligible service. When you mentioned career education, yes, so CTE is the former name for career ed. So career ed was formerly known as CTE. So at Gavilan College, these are our eligible majors. So every college eligible major is going to look different depending on where you're at. And I always get the question like, how do you know a program is eligible? What we did is we went straight to our career ed or CTE department and said, can you give us a list of all your top codes that the chancellor's office deems as CTE or career ed? And that's what they did. So they gave us a list, and then we knew our counselor is well versed in all of the different courses and majors that are eligible for our students to be eligible for Fresh Success. Next slide. As long as the top code is within the career ed list. So they have a specific list that's a career ed top code or a CTE top code. Yes. So the other question I get is like, do students really get jobs? Are they really successful? Like, what's happening to students after they leave Gavilan? Well, you saw 2 students in the video, and that was a really nice, refreshing video for me because that took place so long ago, and those students are no longer with us, but they're both success stories in that video. Both Cynthia and Christian graduated from Gavilan College. They both actually were health science nursing majors. I know that Christian transferred to university because he wanted to get his BSN. Cynthia did graduate from Gavilan with her RN and is working in the field. But the story I really wanted to share was about Jesse Rodarte. Jesse Rodarte was a former foster youth student. He many struggles growing up, seeing a dad with his wife and kids, 4 kids, I believe. He was an EOPS student in our aviation mechanic program. And, we weren't able to offer Fresh Success initially, as I mentioned, to all of our students because we didn't have an MOU and with San Benito didn't have an ENT program. But the year that we were able to offer it, he took advantage of being part of Fresh Success. I believe it was for his last year in the program, and he just soared. His instructors said that his learning, his ability to sit in the class and learn and participate was just amazing. They just saw a really big difference in him. He started to tutor other students, so he started to have extra time to be able to help others. He was an advocate for, many of our programs on and off campus. And he graduated from the program, and I believe a week before he graduated, he got an offer to work for a major airline. So I got chills actually just sharing that because he really, he came in with all the barriers. And through EOPS in combination with Fresh Success, we were able to remove so many of those barriers for him that he was able to thrive and succeed and persist and complete, right? And he really attributed that to the coupling of EOPS and Fresh Success. So I wanted to leave you all with that story about Jesse. I didn't have a picture, otherwise I would have showed his picture. Okay.
We're on now to the Q&A slide, but we don't have a ton of Q&A time left. Now that I'm checking the time, we've only got like 2 minutes. So I'm just going to actually move us on to our last slide, which is our contact information slide. And in the chat, I'm going to put a link to an interest form. if you all want to reach out to us directly before you have access to these slides, please feel free to do that. You can enter your information there and we'll follow up with you. But I know Annette said that these slides are going to be posted on the conference website or on the CalWORKs?
On the association website, and we'll be sure to, email everyone, all the attendees with all of that information, probably after the ATI. Yes, but feel free, yes, like as Courtney mentioned, feel free to reach out to either one of us. Oftentimes folks will, meet with the foundation and then they'll have more specific questions and they'll want to reach out to me, and I'm more than happy to speak with anyone that it has an interest in learning more about Fresh Success. I truly believe in this program, and I think this is really an equity program, in my opinion. And it's gonna fill some gaps on your campus if you're able to get your college folks to agree to work with you to bring this on, because there's a lot of different ways to do it. There's no one perfect or right way. So in Santa Clara County, I know we're at time, but in Santa Clara County, of Foothill, De Anza, San Jose City, Evergreen, and us, and all of us are doing it different.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that, Annette. And just to let you know too, if you're interested in moving this forward, please let us know via the form in the link that I sent. And what will happen is we'll follow up with you to let you know about, our upcoming timelines of when you're able to join the program, and we'll set up some time for you and any of your colleagues on campus to join us on a webinar to talk through this information in more depth with you and how it might fit with your campus. So thanks everybody so much for joining us today.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Courtney.
Thank you.